get in touch with that place that is our place of beingness, of consciousness, and reach into it. And may the doors open to our awareness, and may the obstacles, the barriers, our confusions be freed. And may we free everything to be fully present now and to maximize our understanding and learnings from this teachings with Matthew, this discussion. And may we carry it forward into our days ahead, and may it uh, sort of direct us in our interactions with others and those who are less fortunate than us. And may we carry it and relieve some of their suffering and improve their well-being.
Thank you, Bruce.
You're welcome.
Let's do a meditation. So sit upright with good posture. Inhale and exhale through your nose. Eyes closed or open, doesn't matter. Consider your intentions for meditating. Are you just looking to have an experience for yourself, or are you truly seeking to let go? Resolve to let go of yourself for the sake of finding peace for all. With each breath, scan your body, bringing your attention to different areas. Breathe into any tension and release on exhale. Relax the whole body while maintaining good posture. Turn your attention to the bodily sensations, the feel of your clothes, the weight of the torso and limbs, the shifting pressures as you breathe. That's just sensation. Gather it all up and let it go. There's no need to get rid of it, but it's not your concern and will take care of itself. With eyes open or closed, shift your attention to the whole of the visual field. There's no need to focus on anything. Just see the whole visual field. That's just vision. It doesn't need to go away, but let go of it. It's not your concern. Shift your attention to the whole field of sound. Notice all the little sounds as they come into awareness. That's just sound. You can let go of that too. Let all the numerous sounds come and go. There's no need to push them away, and no need to hold on to them. Turn your attention to whatever thoughts flitter through the mind. Thoughts of the future, past, and present. Big thoughts, subtle thoughts. It doesn't matter. They're all only thoughts. Whether they appear or don't appear, don't concern yourself with them. Let them all go. Without changing anything in this present experience, let go of whatever arises. Free yourself of everything. as you come out of the meditation, take note of how you feel, what sensations you have. If you experience any measure of peace, remember this feeling, remember this place.
Thank you, Matthew, and welcome back, everyone. We're going to move to our discussion. Um, and, for those of you who were here but don't remember last month or weren't here, we talked about the teaching that Matthew offered at one time: without changing anything, free yourself of everything now. And just a little background on this one. It sort of came about for me when I asked Matthew and said, "Give me a brief but total teaching," something like that.
Yeah.
At the very end of one of our conversations, and he gave that, and I wrote it down. So I don't know if you came up with it or you've given that out before, but
No, I just came up with that on the spot. That's why I laughed. You give me a brief but total teaching. It's a tall order.
so that was 2 months ago. That was 2 months ago that he did that, and we talk every week, and for 8 weeks now, that has been either the theme or woven in to our discussions. So when Matthew says that is a complete discussion, there is no way of spending too much time on it, or fully understanding it, perhaps. Um, uh, uh, so um, I I've sat with it for hours in meditation, and it pops up at times, and I really think that has been very helpful to me. So I urge everyone to just really pay attention to it and try to go deeper, and take what comes out of this discussion, and let that be food to help you understand it or go deeper with it. So again, without changing anything, free yourself of everything now. So I hope people have questions. I am going to start with two.
I think I can say a few things about this teaching too now, now that I've had a chance to think about it as well.
Go for it.
And then we'll go into your questions, Bruce, and then we'll open the discussion to the larger group. So the like I said, I just came up with this teaching kind of spontaneously when Bruce asked for it. So now we're stuck with it, and we've been discussing it. But the interesting thing about it, I think, is I do think it's a complete teaching, by the way, but the interesting thing about it, in my mind, is that it is a kind of impossible problem, and because the first part asks you not to change anything, but the second part asks you to free yourself from everything. And as Kristen pointed out, I think last month, freeing yourself from everything sounds like something that needs to be done, something that needs to be changed. And so the beginning and the end seem to contradict each other, or to present a kind of paradox to the mind. And I would venture to say that that most complete, maybe all complete teachings do present a kind of paradox to the mind. that the mind needs to be presented with a kind of impossible problem, that it can't find its way out through mental activity or through intellectual discourse, and that the only way out of this kind of impossible problem is through a kind of spontaneous clarification, through insight, through letting go. Spontaneous letting go, though, not doing. And the other thing I'll say about it is, this will maybe start up thoughts, but this notion of an impossible problem or a paradox has within it what I know I've talked about before, which is looking to fold everything into one. Looking to fold everything into one. So if you see two contradicting statements, the practice is to try to see how it can be folded into one. I want to say perspective, but it's not really what I mean, because the perspective has to be folded into that too. So those of you who heard me talk about that, this is pointing towards the same thing. How do I fold everything into one? Not leave anything out. When you don't leave anything out, nothing can be changed, and you are already free. All right, Bruce.
Well, Matthew, you spoiled both of my two questions.
Oh no, we can go into it more, but I told you that's funny, because before the Zoom, Bruce said, "I've been thinking for how long were you thinking up these
3 days for the
3 days?"
stumper.
He said, "I've been thinking up these stumper questions for 3 days," and I said, "I'm going to slap them down in 2 seconds."
Well, the first one was exactly what you started off with, the paradox of without changing anything, and then, changing something, becoming free. So you've addressed that one, and the second one was, well, what do you mean by everything? And I still think that's a good, even though you say you got to fold everything into it, you really do mean everything. And and as we've worked with this for 2 months, everything I've ever come up with, you say, well, throw that in too. So just talk a little bit about being freed of everything. And I like the word you used yesterday, which was that there's it's not really a letting go or being freed of something, because that's an intention, but of just surrendering, of just. Um, so if you could say a little bit about, more about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's all of that's interrelated. The question about change without changing anything, is really about seeing that nothing can be changed. Whatever you're doing, even if you're trying to change something, see, you're already doing it. So all our attempts to change anything are actually already happening spontaneously. We only have this idea that, we're doing it or we're changing something because we project ourselves into the future and we project ourselves into the past. But at any given moment, and I know I've mentioned this before too, ask yourself, can you not do what you're doing right now? Is it even possible? Whatever you do, you're doing it. So when you're trying to change something, you're not changing anything. You're already doing that. And this is also a way of folding everything in to see everything is already happening. Everything, the mind, thoughts, choices, things, judgments, desire to change, whatever you can think of, it's already happening. And so nothing can be changed. And as far as everything, free yourself of everything, this is a paradox really on its own, because, I would say the only way really to free yourself of everything is to realize that you are already free. And that, this could come about in I could express this in various ways. For example, one way, which some people don't like, is nothing exists. Because nothing exists, you're already free from it all. You only thought that you weren't free. And as far as what does everything include, yeah, it's everything. So whatever you can think of, whatever you imagine or perceive, that's something. So it can't really, this is a kind of, it can't really be what you are. See, we tend to think we think that we're our sensations and our thoughts. But really, we can't be that because we're perceiving that. The true perceiver is unseeable. It's like trying to look directly into your own eyes. So you have to know yourself through what it isn't, instead of trying to pin down what it is.
Did that stimulate a question for anyone? Go for it, Jess. You're muted, I think.
Sorry. A lot of things bubbling, and I wondered if there's a concrete example of something in daily life where you could kind of see the process of somebody who's new at all this, that could sort of see the steps unfolding.
Yeah. So it's really no different than the kinds of instructions you get in meditation practice. For example, let's say you have a thought like, um, I'm, I don't know, I'm overloaded. I'm doing too much work or something. And see, when we have a thought like that, we think it's right there in the language, right? We think that's what we really are. We are overloaded. We are overwhelmed. We are the sensations of being overwhelmed, and so on. And so, the first step in gaining some perspective in order to try to look clearly at what's going on is to step back and see things, to note things for what they are, rather than become sort of enveloped or carried away by them. So when you have a thought like, I am overwhelmed, it's important to note that that's just a thought. And the feeling of being overwhelmed is just a feeling. And the train of thoughts that comes out of this feeling is just a train of thoughts. And, you might say, well, what's the point? That doesn't really go anywhere. Well, that's the point. And so by starting to create this kind of, just create a little bit of space between yourself, your unknown self, and all of the sensations and thoughts and worries and fears and hopes and dreams and that we take to be ourselves. And just by creating a little space, by recognizing, oh, okay, well, that's just a thought, that's just a sensation. At the beginning, it's very helpful to do this as it relates to negative experiences, because we naturally want to alleviate them, So that's a good place to start, is just look at the negative emotions that you have and create that space from them to see that's just a sensation, that's just a thought, and so on. Now, and eventually you want to do that with everything, positive sensations as well, to see that all thoughts are only thoughts, all sensations are only sensations. And this will allow the kind of, it cultivates a calm mind, because you're not sort of carried away with everything that happens. And the calm mind is what one needs to look sort of clearly at what's going on and ask the kinds of questions that this sort of practice naturally leads to, which is, well, if I'm not my thoughts and I'm not my body or my sensations and I'm not my memories, that's just a memory. What am I? And that's the fundamental question of self-inquiry. To see, who is the thinker? Whose thoughts are they? Where do they come from? So, yeah, it's just that. Just looking clearly at things and seeing them for what they are, just a thought, just a concept, just an idea, and so on. Usually we're so caught up in everything, it's my idea, it's the right idea, you know? Yeah.
Thank you.
One thing that has come up for me in the last month is that that I don't need to eliminate my thoughts. My thoughts are not something that I need to change. I just have to understand them and see what they are. For long time, I said, "Oh, I can't meditate because I have all these intrusive thoughts." Uh, and now I can draw those thoughts down as a helpful part of my practice. Um, so,
Yeah,
uh,
whatever is there is your practice. See, that there's another way of folding everything in. See, we think, oh, I have too many thoughts or too many distractions. Well, that's not inhibiting your practice. That's fuel for your practice. If there's a lot of thoughts, look at the thoughts, study the thoughts. If there are distractions, look at the distractions. Whatever is there, so if you understand this, there's no escape from your meditation. You can't say I'm bad at it, or I'm too this or too that to be able to meditate. No, that's whatever is going on is part of the practice. I'm writing this book about practice right now, and as concerns meditation, back in I don't know, the 60s or the 50s or whatever, when Buddhist meditation was introduced to the West. I mean, actually, it probably goes back further than that even. But there was always some people, Western intellectuals, who said that something like the Western mind is too active to meditate. Like which aside from the kind of sort of racist undertones of it, there's just an enormous irony in this thought. This is precisely the kind of mind that needs something like meditation. There's no barrier. There's no barrier to meditation. So if the mind is too easily distracted or too full of thoughts or too empty or too whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You can look at whatever is going on. That is the whatever the content is of consciousness, you can look at that and ask the question, what is that? How am I aware of it?
Can I make a couple of comments and a question?
Yeah, David.
Great. So a couple comments. One comment is some decades ago, I wrote a song called Paradox. And basically the core message was that I'm spirit in a body, which is the ultimate paradox. And so paradox, I have to live with paradox because I am a walking paradox. So I just want to kind of put that out there. I think you have to entertain paradox to understand who you are. The other comment is I really appreciated the teaching. When I meditated on the first time this week, I finally heard it, and I went into a very simple place. It pushed me into just it was really clear to me. I just had to surrender and die into the moment, and that was the answer.
That is the answer.
It was really truly, it was really simple, and it pushed me deeply into that place, and I really appreciated the teaching to push me there.
Nice. Yeah. Keep
Here's my
keep going
question.
back there.
Yeah, when Matthew, when you spoke to you can't do what you're doing. That makes total sense to me. But my question is, it's one of those ultimate questions. I've been kicking this around with my wife just in recent weeks. The issue of free will or no free will. Um, can you share I know we all think about that. You maybe think about it again when you said we can't not do what we're doing.
Right. Right.
Can you speak to your understanding of the issue of free will versus maybe fate or no free will? Where, yeah, that's my question.
Everything is predestined. Yeah. There's a couple layers to this that you can look at. Predominantly, people have the feeling that they have what they call free will, right? We can choose. I can have, uh, a sandwich, or I can have pasta, or I can have, a glass of wine, or I can have a beer. We have these choices, and our feeling is we choose. And so that's that's where this doctrine of free will comes from, this feeling. So the teaching that there is no free will, from my perspective, is an antidote to the belief that there is free will, to the idea of free will. And it's not a hard one to grasp intellectually. As you said, you can see it if you're honest and you say, look, I can't not do what I'm doing right now. So in the moment, now, how could there be choice? The perceived choices are a part of what's happening. See, this is kind of like what I was saying before, where we perceive things, and then we take those things to be what we are. And choices like that. We perceive the feeling of choice, and we take it to be ours. It's our choice. We're choosing. But at the same time, yeah, we can recognize, look, in the very moment, at any moment, whatever you're doing, you're already doing. Even if it's deciding something you're doing, you can't not do it. See, there's no choice. You've already decided. The decision just appears. So, this is also one of those everyday things that you can study. When you have a decision to make, watch the mind. How does it decide? Who is deciding? It's just a bunch of thoughts get bandied about, and then at some point you decide. It's quite mysterious. It's only afterwards or beforehand that you attribute the decision to something that you call self. So from my perspective, this whole question of whether there is free will or no free will is a mistaken question. It's a question that lives in a dualistic kind of framework in which there are independent entities that could have this attribute or not have it. It could have free will or not have free will. But if you search for this entity who either possesses or doesn't possess free will, it doesn't matter either way, search for the entity that is supposed to have or not have it, you won't find anything. You will never find such an entity. Don't take my word for it. Look for that one who is choosing, what do you see? Where do the thoughts come from? How do the decisions arise? Is there a person behind all that, or is all of that the person? So that's what I would say. It's a topic to investigate, not to, I always say, avoid the temptation to believe one way or the other. The truth is not one way or the other. It's the truth. It can't be overturned. If you take any philosophical position on free will or no free will or whatever, it could always be argued against. It could always be overturned by some mental gymnastics. So look for the one who chooses and see what you find. And again, with regard to paradox, you mentioned paradox, and I'll just say the paradox of spirit versus body is very much like this too. Whose body is it? Whose spirit is it? From my perspective, there's no difference. You have to wrap spirit and body into one. You have to resolve that paradox through spontaneous clarification, through insight. It's not this or that. It's everything. If there's a Venn diagram, right, you could have a spirit circle and a body circle. Maybe they're overlapped like this. Well, there's a bigger circle that encompasses everything. And if it's written down, there's the paper and the space. So, when you take everything into account, when you hold everything within yourself, everything is spirit. Everything, the whole universe, everything and nothing is your body.
Thank you. Can I indulge one last thing? If I heard you right, last month, you mentioned you've put out, as you touched on free will, if I heard you right, you said everything's free will.
Yes, everything
I
is
think I heard
free.
you say that.
Yes.
So could you just clarify that? I hope I'm not indulging too
No,
much.
that's
Okay.
fine. We can.
Okay.
So what I was saying was, if I remember correctly, we have this idea that the either or situation, right? That freedom. That's why we say free will. That freedom means we choose. We have choice.
Mm.
And the no choice we see as no freedom.
Mm.
But what I was saying last month was everything is in now. See, like I said, now when we can't not do what we're doing, everything is completely free. Not bound by anything. Spontaneously happening, spontaneously arising. And it's not free because I have choice. it's free because it's choiceless. Because the choice is wrapped in, is folded into everything that's happening. That's why it's completely free. As long as there's some duality, something left out of the picture, then there can't be true freedom. There'll always be freedom and oppression, or there'll always be some measure of suffering. Only when we fold everything in, then everything is completely free.
Thank you for giving me another paradox. Because if I heard you right, you said everything is free because we have no choice. So I love it.
Right, right.
I love it.
Yes,
Thank
that
you
is what
very
I'm
much.
saying. Yep.
All right. Thanks, Matthew. That's helpful. Appreciate it.
I'll add something, and that is somebody, Mark told me, Joel Morwood says that of course there's free will, there's just no self-will. So there's another kind of teaching or another approach to the same thing, really.
One thing, Matthew, you suggested to me once was when you wake up, notice when and how you get out of bed. How do you decide to get out of bed?
Yeah, that's a
And
great opportunity.
yeah, because I don't decide. All of a sudden, you're getting out of bed, and you say, "Oh, I've decided to get out of bed."
Yeah, you can lay there. It's such a great opportunity because, none of the stress of the day has built up or anything. You've just woken up. It's a brand new day. It's a whole new world that just appeared. And you're just laying there. Do I get up? When do you get up? How do you decide to get out of bed? You can lay there and kind of try to game the system. Oh, well, I'll lay here a little longer. I'll get up. No, I'm not going to do it. You can game the system, but if you watch everything that's going on, including the trying to game whether to get up or not get up, or and so on, it's just a bunch of stuff happening. It's just a bunch of thoughts and the body's reactions and further thoughts, further trains of thoughts, and eventually you just get up. It's totally spontaneous. I mean, you may have a thought, okay, I'm going to really do it now. But see, that's just happening too. Yeah, it's a great practice. This waking up time is a very interesting time to study. Same with falling asleep time. Because when you wake up, if you go even a little go back further than getting out of bed, to how do you become aware that you are awake? So you're either in a deep sleep or in a dream, but somehow you're not aware of this world or your body or your mind. And all of these things appear. First, we'll just watch, see what happens. It can happen in different orders. Maybe you notice an arm. Oh, an arm. Then the mind appears. Then the self appears. Then the bed appears. Then the room appears. Then the whole world is back. And you can study that, how your mind, body, and world come into being, assemble themselves in the morning. And likewise, when you go to sleep at night, you can watch as all these things fall away. The mind falls away, the body falls away, and the world falls away. It's very peaceful to be in deep sleep. Yeah.
Other
Paul?
people have questions. Oh, good. Christy?
Oh, Christy? Yeah, I'm out.
So, continuing on this topic, the the phrase "who decides" has actually been really powerful for me, because the phrase "who am I" or "what am I" was just not doing it. So, but "who decides" was really fruitful, and it's um it's it's been interesting. It was like there were times that I felt like I had to make a decision about attending an event or something, and I would not make the decision. I would just not make it, and I felt they would always be made for me. And
Right.
I don't know where that came from, but I would just be like, I guess that's what I'm doing, because that's what's happening. It's weird, but I've noticed it. It's the decisions get made. Um, in other contexts, like you talked about the staying in bed, usually my body needs something. And so a large part of my practice is just recognizing that I'm attending to my body. And another teacher, he calls himself an automaton, a wind-up karmic toy. He just describes himself as someone who's, just sees himself kind of wandering around. And I get that, because the body has a lot of needs. It's very needy, very high maintenance. And
Yeah, just
still
like,
did.
yeah, absolutely. And, just like you said about your decisions, you can just watch the body and it will also attend to itself.
Exactly.
You don't need to attend to it. It actually attends to itself.
Yeah, exactly. So who decides has been powerful. So
Yeah. Yeah.
thank you
This
for
is
that.
very much like, Ramana Maharshi used to say to people, who asked this question? You know, that's a lot like that. Who is asking? And that is a way of pointing um, to the self, but not the self that people imagine, not the thinker and the doer that people imagine. But when you really look at who asks this question, who decides, there's nothing there.
I still am not 100% though. I'm not 100% there, but I recognize that that we have conditioning that that is operating, and I also recognize that there's desires or intentions, things like not letting a friend down, and wanting to be productive in society and making money. Like these are all, I could see them at play, um, and they help make my decisions. Or I shouldn't say help, they do make my decisions.
Right? They're doing their part.
but but just like the thought that there is no free will is terrifying to me now. For you, it's freedom, and I'm not there yet. So just to
Yeah.
say, on my
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. A lot of people have this reaction to hearing this idea that there's no free will. That's why I add this other layer that the whole thing is predicated on a false assumption. So there's nothing to fear. Whatever is going on right now. Is going on when you make your decisions, when you get out of bed, when you order your food, when whatever is going on is already what's going on. So there's nothing to fear in finding out what it is, from seeing the truth. It's already the truth. That's the very nature of truth. It's already the truth, um, yeah.
Paul, did you have a question?
Yeah, I am unmuted. Okay. This goes back, Matt, to your comment that Joel says there's free will but no self-will. And when you said that, I found myself wondering, do you, having awakened, have any experience of agency?
again, there's two ways to answer this question. You know, one way is I have the exact same feeling of agency as you have. But I know that that agency is just the mind and just the body. So from the perspective of consciousness itself, everything is just arising spontaneously, including the mind, including the body. And that's what we are. So this is like a completely different kind of, it's categorically different. To speak of agency doesn't even make sense anymore. That's something that pertains to bodies, minds, and worlds. So, yeah, I would just say, you could say it's the ultimate agency. You're doing everything. Or you could say everything does itself. And this would amount to the same thing, essentially. From my perspective, it doesn't even really make sense to talk of agency. You know, there's certain things, you know, that just don't make sense anymore. You know, I had to relearn how to answer certain social questions like, how are you? How are you? You know, after my awakening, this is actually a very confusing question. I had to realize, well, it's a question about the mind and body. So you answer accordingly, just as you would normally. It's no problem. So, you know, to questions like that, there's always kind of two different ways of answering them depending on what you're asking about.
It's helpful to hear you say that on one level, on the level of mind and body, you experience agency the same way I would, or Bruce would, or Jessica would. But at the same time, you realize
I don't know if it's this exactly the same way. It's just to be perfectly honest. You know, I think about my own life prior to awakening, and it's fraught with suffering, with worry, with mental pain, and ennui, anxiety. You know, it's fraught with all of these things because I was bound to those thoughts, to those emotions, to that mind, to that body. When you're bound to it, you suffer all of the effects. And you have all of the responsibility. I have to choose. I have to decide what to do with my life. What am I going to do? Am I going to stay at this job or quit this job? Am I going to marry this person or not marry this person? Am I going to, you know, what am I going to do? You know, our lives are filled with so many tough decisions. And when we are bound to those thoughts and those feelings and those decisions, we feel the weight of them. And, you know, awakening is called liberation for a reason. And that is that while you may still see those things, you are aware of your decisions and making decisions and deliberating, right? You don't feel I should say, I don't feel the the weight of them. It's kind of like what Christy was saying. You know, your life is figured out for you. That's a huge, huge relief. A relief beyond imagination. That was my experience. So now I just, I just watch all of this unfold. See what happens. See what happens. See what happens. That's more the feeling, more my experience. Just watch and see what happens.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Carol, you're next.
Hi. Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about as I mentioned about the bottom dropping out of my path.
Yeah.
It I didn't notice that happening. I just noticed all of a sudden everything was different, and especially I used to view people as a kind of a means to get what I want or to feel good or approval, that kind of thing. And, a feeling of separation and kind of loneliness, and
Yeah.
feel the differences between us and uniqueness and everything. And that's kind of what changed, it feels like. It just kind of could feel like I wasn't doing that anymore, and I was feeling this love and enjoyment of just seeing people and seeing their uniqueness and differences and distance, but it didn't mean separation or and I don't know, they're just the spiritual path just didn't seem like I was on a spiritual path anymore. It's not that I lost a decision or something was made, like, oh, there's no reason to seek, or there's no reason to give up a path. It just kind of wasn't there anymore. And I don't know, it wasn't like this magical thing that happened. It was just gone, kind of.
Well, the path as a separate thing is like, we see people as separate, so when the distinctions fall away, when that feeling of separation falls away, that extends everywhere. And so there is no path. Or another way of saying is there's nothing but the path.
Yeah, life.
Right, life.
Yeah.
Your whole life, the spiritual journey is the whole of our lives, exactly as they are. So while we may think or perceive that on our journey we go into the path and out of the path, we meditated for a while, then didn't meditate for a while, we were a Buddhist for a while, then we were a Christian for a while, and so on. So we perceive all of these different things, all these separate, and that the path is somehow something other than our life, something I'm doing the path, I'm doing the practice and so on. But actually, it's all the path. As we go in and out and get this, it's just like meditation. When you're distracted, that's also the meditation.
Yeah.
There's no, so from the big picture of the spiritual path, There's no escape. There's no way out of the path. Everything is the path.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, when you see through that veil of separation, it applies to everything. So
Yeah.
there's no need to hold on to anything. As I said, free yourself of everything. You're already on the path. You can't go wrong. As I said, our lives are figured out for us. Nothing can go wrong.
It's kind of like the spiritual path. There was always this idea that I was going to get somewhere, or
Right.
it was going to happen. I was going to advance or gain something, and I just know that that's not true. That there isn't anything to attain. There's nothing to like get to, or
And
something.
that's real progress. Yeah.
Explain that, Matthew, because that is so true. You've said that so many times.
It's
Why
disillusionment. Yeah. You know that it's disillusionment.
Yeah.
And disillusionment is a necessary stage. We have to go through disillusionment. Think of what all the teachings tell us. We're under a delusion, you know? So we have to be disillusioned of that. We have to be disillusioned that we are separate beings, that there is a separate path that we have to do, or that disillusioned of the idea that there is something to attain, that you're not already perfect. So that kind of disillusionment is necessary. We have to go through it. And we have to really go through it. We can't just pretend to go through it. I don't, you know, we have to really go through it. It has to really happen. We have to just know, we have to know it. We have to know that there's nothing I can do. There's nowhere to get to. There's nothing to attain. Because that kind of disillusionment leads to profound surrender, which is what I think we had mentioned that earlier. That's letting go. It leads to peace, being at peace. You know, I always say, you know, that's the hardest thing for people. It was the hardest thing for me. I can say that, is just to be at peace. We're always looking for some kind of conflict within ourselves, with the world, with the way things are, the way we want things to be. We're always looking for conflict. Put an end to all conflict. Just be at peace. Find peace.
Carol, your question brings us back to the teachings without changing anything. Free yourself of everything now.
Yeah, it's a perfect example.
It's a perfect example. That's why I was so happy you brought it up.
Yeah, when you mentioned you're already perfect, you know, the mind goes to some idea about perfection, like, but it's, I don't know, it's that imperfection of the perfection of imperfection. Like,
yes, right, exactly. Yeah, that temptation, and that's what it is. That temptation to try to imagine perfection. Well, that's just pushing it off somewhere else.
Yeah.
The perfection is exactly how things are.
We can't change anything. It's perfect just the way it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Different. We have time. My dinner won't cook itself. So we have time for one final question. If anyone, and let's let someone, if there's someone who hasn't asked one yet. And Kim, I'm going to look at you if you have a question, because you're another newbie. So I'll give you a chance to ask one.
Fortunately or unfortunately, I'm kind of like Matthew described himself. By the time I can find and word a question, I pretty much have what I need to answer. So
Oh,
questions from me, straightforward questions will probably be rare.
That was my practice too. I practiced like that for a long time, where I never knew what kind of questions to ask.
Yeah. Accepting that and working within my own infrastructure has been a big piece of progress and a big help.
Yeah, just listen, let it unfold.
Thank you though, Bruce.
yeah, yeah. Anybody else? Kristen, can I call on you?
Just a big thank you. That's all.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you all for coming, for taking the time to be here. It's always a joy every month to see you all and to have this ongoing dialogue. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Matthew. Kim and Carol, we hope you join us again. And for Kaizen's teachings, if you have other people that might be interested, please let them know. And as always, Matthew, your teachings are just so right on all the time. But we need to remember that we don't really do this, have a practice, or do this for ourselves only. We do this for everything and everyone. And so carry this peace, which Matthew mentioned, this peace which is without conflict. And just pray or dedicate or offer that peace to the world, because by golly, this world needs it now. And the little bit that we can offer can make a difference in some ways that I don't understand. But just dedicate it and offer it to peace in the world. That
Thank
is
you, Bruce.
peace without conflict. Elimination of conflict.
Be at peace.
Yes. And do that through love. I love you all. Those of you I know and love intimately, and those of you who I've yet to meet in person. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Bruce. Much appreciated.
Likewise, Bruce and Matt.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks everyone.
Matt, thanks, Bruce.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
Next
night.
month.
Yeah. Thank you.